Today we're going to be looking at the power of the DISC team assessment. And for those of you that know me, or don't know me, I'm Becky Carr, and I'm facilitating this webinar today about the team assessment report. Now, as I said, we've got quite a lot to get through. So I'm going to talk a bit faster than I usually would, I think, and you will always be able to download this and re-listen to it as well. So look, no matter how small or large your team is, understanding the balance of behavioural styles and dynamics is really integral to a happy and productive team. So the extended DISC team assessments enhance workplace cohesion, like increase productivity, work satisfaction, team member self-esteem, and help increase things like, or decrease, I should say, stress and anxiety, which is pretty prevalent at the moment. The team assessment provides organisations with a clear, easy-to-use framework that quickly understands complex issues, team issues like, solving the problems of performance and communication. The team diamonds, like the shotgun map, offer powerful insights into the current team dynamics and provides ways to overcome challenges. Now, I have to say, and be honest with you, I love the team assessment or the team analysis, whichever one you want to call it. It is one of my favourites. And it's because it contains just so much information for both for the end users and managements and consultants. It's a huge amount of information just by simply reading the report from front to back. But if you want more depth of information and understanding how to read it further, understanding certain aspects in the diamonds and graphs more thoroughly will, of course, really help you. So some of these areas I might talk about today are not necessarily written or shown in the actual report, and some is, but I wanted to give you a brief look at how you can use them and overall, read into them. Of course, a lot of extra knowledge can be gained from, for those of you, if you can do level 2 consultant certification, because we go into the teams module and we go into a lot more depth, and obviously we skim over the surface today. So for example, the Finxs team report can give you an understanding of what team type, don't know why that went, what team type you have or what team type you need to design from scratch, amongst other things that I will be chatting about. Now, because there's so much information today that can be both read and interpreted, this webinar is going to be mainly about the sort of shotgun maps and the diamond maps, really, and linking some of that behavioural information to some of the knowledge that you should have already got in accreditation level 1 or 2. Personally, I've used this information in the team report from both parties, like end user and also a consultant and trainer, for the last 14 years. So the information you can get from it is really unique and in depth and really valuable. So let's have a look at how some organisations and consultants can actually use it. Look, I know we've got lots on the slides at the moment, but I wanted to try and jam in as much as possible. So firstly, what is the Finxs team report? Okay, so we already know that the team DISC report is a highly useful tool for helping identify teams' preferred way of doing things. So these next few pages, I'm going to actually spend the time going over the how and the what it does in general. So the team report is a tool that combines all of the individual assessments of a particular team that you select into one report. Now, I'm saying this because we have quite a few newbies with us as well. And not everyone is aware of the team report. Incredibly, you can select an unlimited number of individuals. So that means you can always analyse a small group, a department, or an entire organisation. As a result, it enables you or your client to perform various more complicated analysis very cost effectively. Can I just remind you, though, just be a bit careful of how many you do in a team report. For one, the team report comes out massive, but also two, are you actually doing a group of people or a team of people? Because the more tighter you can keep it in a team, the more information you can tell from it. Okay, so you can see my ones on the slides here. Oh, excuse me. There's obviously a lot more down the bottom, which is still, really readable. and the top one as well. I mean, we've got some clients that have done, you know, thousands on one shotgun map, so it looks very pretty. So how does this information help people? It has a huge benefit for both end users and organisations and consultants looking at coaching and training. But directly, it helps a team by, you know, members seeing positive strengths and better comprehending the development areas of team members. It can increase the understanding of how and why they are different or similar, and also be valuable. Things like gaps and differences in the gaps and how they can, you know, have a different or stretch or flex themselves into those gaps. For the leader, it can really help highlight the natural strengths of a team and areas of development. In addition, it provides supporting information on how teams can work effectively together. Things like dividing team activities better, delegating activities well, and how to support various team members, which is really important. You know, basically it provides information that helps build and manage an effective team, including potential communication conflict, as well as best fit for tasks, even succession planning and gaps in the structure of the team as well. Let's just take this a little bit further, and I have listed some very specific ideas about how you can use it as well. I think that's good to be able to use it this way. So these are some of the applications. So in short, this one report can help you with areas like team dynamics, especially things like communication, reactions to change, conflict, and ideal work environments. It also helps in understanding things like team makeup, designing it by highlighting what type of team you currently have versus what you might need. Now, in this, I mean that you have a team made up of members from all around the extended DISC behavioural axis, but actually, you might conclude through analysis that the team task that you actually need, or the task that you need to be done, actually can come from very similar behavioural styles rather than all around the diamond. So, for example, a customer service team most likely need to be could be from a particular area rather than from around the entire axis. So you can ascertain this through matching task behaviours compared to team behaviours. So we will actually go into that a little bit further in the webinar today and explain that. So therefore, through similar task matching, the team analysis can aid in highlighting recruitment gaps in the team and showing what the natural team might be already made up of and where the new recruit might fit. Furthermore, it can identify the potential training needs of new members and also the existing teams. This can be done through analysing comfort zones shown in the maps as well. So the report can outline leadership and management styles in relation to the team's expectations of a leader. So, for example, how different members expect to be managed and connected in relation to where that actual leader sits. And of course, this can pave the way to some pretty high-performing teams when you have good fit versus expectations and needs. So on the same lines, many of our current clients use the report for strategic leadership. One of those particular areas is like leadership succession planning. This is done through identifying the right people with the type of management style at the current time, or even better, what will be needed in the future once an analysis has been taken as to the path or the company of where they're going with their culture and direction. So this report can show the team's strengths, their development areas. It illustrates the team members, how they perceive each other and need to adjust behaviours. And this is all pretty important, really, because it can help outline issues like where are their avoidance areas going to be? Where are they going to be demotivated? Where could there be underperformance or unity in the team? So you can now imagine just how powerful this report can be when it's used to its full potential. I've just listed quite a few there. Couple this report with one of the 360 review feedbacks, and the amount of information and insight you get is truly immense. As a result, it enables clients to perform various more complicated analysis very cost effectively. So let's just have a quick look at the main pages in the team report, because as I know, quite a few of you are new, some are not, but it's good to have a bit of a refresh. So, of course, one of the differences that make any of the Finxs reports unique from other reports is the fact that they can be used as standard, already developed or off the shelf, or it can be completely customized by you. So, you know, we have heaps of clients that enjoy using all of our off-the-shelf team reports, and it's been created using certain diagrams and specific data and competencies. But also, some of the clients have recreated their own reports to reflect their training, the coaching, or their company's specific needs. So that means the diagrams, images, type of information, and how information is presented can be changed to fit your purpose. Look, I know that not everyone listening will be familiar with the pages of the standard report, so you are welcome to download one from the website and have a look at it a little bit more thoroughly if you're not familiar with it. The pages have, you know, on the slide, these are the main ones that we're going to be having a look at in the report currently. So basically, there is what we call a shotgun and name map, which places all the members on the extended disc diamond using their natural style, profile 2. Both maps in there are there are definitely times that I would use them and not use them, because I'll explain a little bit later, but we have both of them with names and without names for a reason. So included in the report is also what we call an arrow map, which shows how the team members are adjusting in their current environment, and that is really handy to see. The last of the maps is the flexibility map, which enables you to see teams and behavioural comfort zone, and actually have the flexibility of the team as a whole, what their scope of behaviours actually are. The other pages in it include like disc style percentages, the table of individual teams. There's just so much great information. But you can look at individuals in the team as well as their profiles. The graphs are actually printed. But if you have a lot of team members, just be aware that this can make the report very, very long. So you may want to change it to a chart situation rather than actually having everyone's profile graphs in there. So lastly, there are several pages that measure all members against a range of competencies or behavioural competencies. Of course, if you're customizing your own report, you can choose out of thousands of behavioural competencies that they have online. Whichever ones you need, you can just use by dragging and dropping them in. But it sounds a lot easier. You need to actually refer to your report designer notes for your training, from your training in this part to do it. So if you want to customize your behavioural competencies, refer to your training information for your Finxs and you'll be able to copy it into there. So before we go any further, I just quickly need to deviate slightly and look at the EDISC axis. Because we're limited for time on this webinar, I'm really not going to be able to go into it too much. So I'm going to assume that most people listening today have a really good knowledge of the extended disc style, all of the styles. And in that, I don't mean just the axis itself, but a really good grasp of each disc style behavior. You know, I'm an advocate for learning the axis and actually understanding the axis just as much as the styles. So in reality, the more you know about the styles, the communication needs, their fears, reactions, risk, activities, listening, the team roles, you know, this stuff is really great because it links information together for an in-depth analysis. Understanding the actual axis has a big plus as well. So for example, knowledge regarding introvert, extrovert, task versus people-oriented, thinking, feeling, fast-paced, slow. This will all give you insight into team dynamics and then again, individual members as well on top. So if you feel that you don't have enough about the aspects I've mentioned, then you'll find other webinars on specific topics or have a look back on your training notes. There's lots in there, but the more you know about the different layers, the more thorough an analysis can be of the team. So hopefully that will refresh you enough and we can carry on and have a look at the actual report itself. So right now we have gone through all the background of sort of the information and the why you would use it and what it actually offers. So let's start off first by looking at the shotgun map that is used sort of extensively, I guess, through the team report. It uses the extended disc diamond to map the actual team members. So the shotgun map has the team members represented as dots, and you select obviously the members that you want to be part of the team. The dot is actually showing the team members' profile 2, which is their natural, most comfortable style. Also, don't forget, just for the newbies, obviously these diamond maps, we use these and they represent the EDISC axis. So you can see I've just put this over the top, but the axis literally fits over the top so that you can easily see where the members' dominant style, what quadrant they are placed in. So just remember this is actually the quadrant. The diamond is just representative of that, like a bit more of a in-depth map. So we also then have the name map, and that is the same except it uses members' names instead of dots. Why do we have the map with just dots and why do we have names? Simple. I can tell you there are times that you want to have a look at a team really objectively. No names, no bias, just the makeup, the spread, the gaps, the team versus what you need. Then once that's often completed, then yes, we bring up the next map, which is the names, and start discussing the actual people in depth. Okay, so this is, it really helps to understand where to start with. Not everyone has to use the shotgun map, by the way. Sometimes you jump straight to names. That's totally fine. So for the purpose of this webinar, the best way we're going to grasp some of the knowledge is to simply follow me with a pre-written brief and analysis of a customer service and sales team. That way you can see the sorts of things you can identify by looking at the placement of the members first. And obviously you can analyze so much that I've ended up with, a reasonably long webinar, but we'll try and move steadily through everything. Okay, so here is a shotgun map of a customer service and sales team in the printing equipment industry. As you can see, the shotgun map shows the distribution of the team with the majority of the members clustering around that SC sort of quadrant. So what does this mean, you might ask? Well, several things can be interpreted straight away. Firstly, I would assess the team type, which is what we're just going to have a look at now. So I know what the strengths and weaknesses are of the overall team. So the extended disc recognizes 3 team types, and you'll see them on my screen. I'll bring a shortened version of them up and we can look through. So you have a very shortened version up on the screen there, but obviously there's a lot more. The first one is what we call a homogeneous team, and that is where we tend to have similar behaviours, or the dots seem to be clustered in one area. So therefore, we have similar behaviours and therefore engagement of things like activities, communication, dynamics are usually quite easy. They're similar. Their challenge tends to be that they have a narrow field of behaviours. So that team could lack the diversification at times, can possibly, even stifle creativity and information processing, making them more inflexible. The danger of having a team all in one area like this is something called groupthink, where you naturally process a certain way, you naturally think a certain way, and therefore it is hard to think outside the box or get creative in some aspects. And I see this all the time. However, having a homogeneous team is sometimes exactly what you need. The next one is a heterogeneous team. And, this tends to cover more of the full spectrum regarding the roles. So creativity tends to be a strength here. However, communication can be a problem, of course. We all know how differently the styles interact and communicate with each other. So decision-making can be slow in this team just due to all the differences in things like doing activities, engaging in them, getting on with it, making decisions, how they make decisions, processing data and instructions. If you don't know what I'm talking about here, go back to your training and having a look at things like the slide that has attitude to doing, etc. Just how differently we all engage in activities, how fast we get on with it. So lastly, the diverted team tends to have team members from opposite sides of the diamond. So their strong point, of course, is a particular development area of that one member one side often has a strength and it's the other side's challenge, and vice versa. So delegation of tasks is easier. Therefore, the challenge, however, of this particular team is something called sub-teaming. And that's the grouping of smaller teams within the team that can pitch against each other and play on the unity of the team. So just on the note on teams, can I just make a point that you don't always need an even distribution of a team. Like a lot of people say, oh, you know, Becky, we must get something with a heterogeneous team. Sure, that sounds good. However, is it actually what you need? And of course, this is part of analysing and understanding the true needs of the actual team. You know, are they better to come from one area and be a more similar team or diversive team, you know, heterogeneous or even diverted? So in looking at this particular shotgun map of the customer service and sales team, you can see it tends to be around the homogenous area. The bulk of the cluster sits around the S area. So already I know, obviously, my background is I know a little bit about the team makeup, and I can start analysing from what I know about the EDISC styles and, you know, how this actual team is going to work. So let's just go a little bit further now that you know about the different team types. Right. Oh, hang on. Have I actually flipped that? I have. Excuse me a little bit. It must have come through and I didn't realise. So let's put good old facilitation. Sometimes you just have to go with the flow. So let's put the EDISC adjectives and axis up beside so we can actually have a little look. But if I skip straight to the S-style quadrant, as that tends to be the one that is where the cluster tends to be. So if you can compare it there, obviously those clusters are around the S. You can see that the sort of adjectives that fall into the quadrant are things like trustworthy, steady, calm, careful, patient, modest, friendly, good listener, etc. Many of the traits that I already know that would be actually good for customer service. Okay, it comes from a bit of experience, but you can pretty much work out what some of the behavioural traits are needed for some of these activities and responsibilities. So many of the traits that I already know for customer service. This team, for example, also has team members in the I and the D and the C quadrants. These could be salespeople. I don't know. That, you know, the sales is, unless the sale is very specialized and technical, in which case salespeople could come from the C quadrant, for example. This sort of thing you can analyze further with finding out information about the team or using a name map to identify individuals. It's, you know, getting the understanding of the team's expected activities, goals, and results will help in analysing a lot. Reviewing their job descriptions can be also quite good too, but obviously that takes a bit of time. So far the team type and the makeup all seem to be pointing in a fairly good direction for a customer service / sales team that are mixed. Personally, I would break them up, and I think I say that later on, but I can't wait to tell you. So let's just go through. Okay, let's go through some of the things that I would naturally ask myself or digest about the team. I have some headings up just to make it easy for you. I would say this, I've got some basic headings up. I actually go into far more depth than what we're looking at here. And there is even sheets and questions available that you can really go into and diagnose and analyse a team. A lot of those are in the second module, team modules in level 2. So again, I'm expecting that you know the extended DISC styles as they are needed when analysing and debriefing a report in depth like this. I want you to put your thinking caps on for a moment. And I know it's probably early morning for some of you and it's mid-afternoon for some of us. But have a little think about some of the team types of strengths and potential challenges of this very specific team that we've got up here. Okay, just have a quick look at it. Okay, so this particular map shows, as we know, if we're going to have a look at overall distribution, which is team type, we know that the concentration is in this ISSC area, so mainly looking at homogenous team as we've established. The clusters of dot tend to be in one area mainly with a few scattered throughout. But can I tell you, it's not always as obvious as this either. Sometimes you really like are drawn between, gosh, is it homogenous? Is it heterogeneous? You know, what is it? So you just have to make your mind up. So based on the knowledge we have already got about this particular, you know, about DISC behaviors, S's and SCs, CSs, etc., and combinations, you know that the strengths of this team would likely be what? So because I'm not actually going to take all the different answers with so many participants, because it will stuff up the sound, I'll put them up. But obviously, you're going to figure out some other ones that I haven't got up here. These are very general. So the strengths, things like being supportive, good people skills, good listeners, attention to detail, great follow-up, excellent process development, good planners, the list goes on. What about some of the weaknesses of a team? It could be lacking clear goals and direction at times. There could be some slow to make changes and make decisions. Could be a slower pace of work. Outbound cold calling could be a challenge if needed. Would need to know a lot of details. Could be stubborn when it comes to change, poured on them spontaneously. Deadlines could be an issue. So just for time's sake, I've filled in these questions and the next set as well, because I just want to show you the sorts of things when debriefing and analysing an actual team report, some of the things you can start to link in. They call them subgroups here, but you know, you can have a look on screen, and the subgroups, lots of communication and collaboration required for decision, because that's how S's, etc., make decisions. Concentration in the S and C might mean that they can be care too much. I'm not sure that's a bad thing, but in customer service, you know, you have to stay on track. Sales, ditto. Decisions may be emotional rather than fact-based. Okay. As I say, these are just completely unbiased, just put down what you see. Then there's any lone areas, things like, you know, the D style there. They might not have enough sway to ensure the team stays focused in direction. Do they need to? They may have a them-us situation. If the D happens to be team leader, let's just put them in team leader role for example. There might be that team leader operates differently, but it also could be a really magic interaction there. It could be just what the team needs. The qualities of the D may go unrecognized or underutilized. I mean, this could just be a customer service person that's sitting in the D. That'd be interesting. Potential pitfalls. Losing sight of the bigger picture. Needing to know what the purpose is. Well, I think that's actually quite a good one. Communication between C and I, perfectionism versus let's get it done. That was that slide I said to you before. If you look at the attitude towards doing activities, that's an interesting one. Conflict may be passive, so it might not be spoken. Typically of that nature, they have very much deep feelings but may not express it. You can read it anyway, but avoiding pitfalls, it goes on. So look, of course, there's more questions that you could analyse. And as I say, there's even debriefing sheets or analysing sheets where we have heaps and heaps of questions that really get you thinking under each heading. And when I started off analysing teams, this is actually what I started using, a debriefing sheet, and it was very helpful. It really made me cognitive about the actual team, the makeup, what I should be looking for, you know, depending on, am I recruiting? Am I designing a team from scratch? Am I developing the team? Am I looking at leadership interaction? All these types of things. Okay, so this is giving you a very quick overview of the types of things you can do. So, you know, just think about how important it would be for your organisation or team productivity if you knew more about the actual makeup of your team. Would it help if you were a leader or manager to achieve your goals and targets if you knew more about the roles of members or the roles that your members actually tend to adopt naturally when they are in a team? Well, I'm pretty sure it would, because I know it really helps me as a consultant. So some of the questions on the slide here are typical of what gets asked, you know. Now, hey, Becky, who are the right people for these particular tasks? Well, let's have a look. How do I motivate and lead the team? Or how do I, you know, motivate individuals? But usually I get asked by, you know, how are we going to motivate this team? What are their unique strengths and weaknesses in the roles so I can give them the right training? Where are the gaps in my team and team roles? So how do I compensate for those gaps? And that's always an interesting one. What style of individuals might I need to bring into the team to make it more effective? Like, have I got gaps that I really need to fill? Am I missing something here? So let's keep going using the same team, but look at it in relation now to what we call the team roles. So many questions. Here we go. In this example here, we can use the sort of the shotgun map, the same shotgun map. Just bear with me. I think I want to do it in this order. So for those that are new to team roles, we actually divide the diamond and make it a little bit easier for you by grouping traits and preferences together in a team situation. So there's actually 10 of these team roles, as you see on the slide. So in this example here, we can use the same shotgun map, as I said, and we can have a look at the different clusters. So in this situation, the clusters seem to be a little around that mainly around that SC, SI type area. So if you look at the corresponding team role, and of course I've circled it there on top, if you can see my cursor, you can actually see that the main headings under that sort of circle are things like supporter, assurer, and participator. Now, there's obviously way more in-depth information on the 10 team roles on the website in the VIP pages, but you can download them and have them handy next time just to read a little bit more. But for the sake of this webinar, I'm actually just going to bring up one team role because the majority of them kind of fit into that area. So, of course, if you're doing a thorough analysis of this team, I would expect you to be also bringing up other team roles like influencer, the stimulator, and specialist, because you've got dots in those areas as well, okay? If you're ever unsure about what team role they are, you can always go into Open Preview or into their own reports and have a look. I think I'm going to take a guess here and say it's around about page 9, where it will actually say what they are in the team as well. Otherwise, Open Preview, click the person, and you can, off you go. So let me just bring this up. This is one of the 10 roles, and this is called the supporter role because that fits what we're doing. You know, this person is typically careful, smooth-tempered, trustworthy, calm doer. They follow given work patterns and they want to help others. The typical strength is that they take responsibility for anything they do. They have a talent for building on people processes that help members. They enjoy improving those. Happy to follow and support. They enjoy planning and they like to follow up. The challenge is that they can stay in the background. They don't like spontaneous change or change that they can't be part of. That's an easy way to describe it, but they can also become stubborn when pushed on things like fairness and principles that they have. Deadlines can make them a bit stressed, and also energy levels and constantly dealing with people. So once again, if this was an organization, you would more than likely need, you would most likely need different strengths and attributes from a variety of roles. However, this is a specific department or group. So the scope of team role does tend to be smaller. The reason for this is that customer service members might need to be of similar make to match the tasks required of the customer service position. But the salespeople, on the other hand, will possibly need quite different behaviours, possibly from the, let's just say, some stimulator, influencer, or maybe communicator, depending on what sort of sales they are required to do, okay? Because sales comes from right around the diamond. Possibly they might need roles that sit on the extroverted side sometimes, but not always. So what would help further here is to understand where the different customer service and sales roles potentially come from. Of course, selling different products and different sales requirements, as I said, was all over the axis. Personally, can I just make a note on here? If this was something I was doing, I would split the team further, because I would personally break this into customer service and analyze that, and analyze the salespeople separately, because in my books, they are different behaviors that are needed. Okay, but I wanted to show you what this can look like. And this is often as managers or consultants, etc., what you tend to inherit, a bit of a customer service / sales team to work out. I'm sure you've all been there before. We won't go on it too much, but I wanted to just sort of quickly, what I was just talking about there is sales. So very briefly, let me touch on it, because boy, we've got some other, the sales competency reports that can answer a lot of this as well. But let's just keep on to the DISC, the team one at the moment. And also too, just side note, there is other webinars that go into this stuff very specifically on sales as well. But if you have a look at this customer service and sales diamond, you can see the different types of selling and potentially match it to members in the shotgun map. This way you can see why there might be some issues happening, and you can identify things like training needs, potential restructures, or a change in job descriptions, which is, all requirements for that person. So these team roles can also help in recruiting a new team member as well. Once the potential new recruit has done their behavioural report, you can see where they might fit and align to the actual task you're wanting them to perform. You would also be able to see where they may need some hand-holding, potential conflict, how they're going to fit into the existing team, the strengths and weaknesses, okay? So this particular shotgun map of our customer service / sales team, I would start to understand if some of the S and SC members, if there were salespeople in there, hey, look, they can do that. But if they were required to maybe constantly cold call or constantly present to strangers on topics that they may not be specialists in, constantly going face to face, I'm not saying they can't do it, but there may be some that have more avoidance than others. There might be a few issues. So they might be out of their comfort zones just because they are, avoiding things like cold calling. I have been, as I'm sure you have, privy to coming into a sales team to find that, a good 50% of them are totally avoiding the cold calling. Cold calling's not done as much as it used to be these days, because obviously we get leads through other means. So it's not as big a problem as it used to be. But if you want to use people's best strengths, all of this stuff is really great to remember and take on board if you are really thoroughly analysing a team. So the same could be said for, with these lone members. So let's just have a little look at the influencer and the stimulator. We have to make sure that we include them because they're part of the team. These members have been selected to do maybe customer service roles. Then there might be some areas of training or processes to be established, as both these roles in the I and the sort of D area tend to be more hunter-ish roles, and they might find it harder to concentrate on following up, sort of farming their clients, doing customer service and all that type of thing. It could get tedious or too much routine. They tend to enjoy more of a challenge, getting them on board, signing the deal, and then handing them over once they've won the chase or the win. So you can start to see that mapping and identifying the task of the team. First of all, understanding team goals, identifying team roles, see where members might fit, and it can be very insightful for helping to resolve things like recruitment, communication, productivity, and actually just seeing the gaps in the actual team makeup. So look, I know there's a lot to digest there. There's questions, there's team roles, there's different types of teams, there's all sorts of things, but again, just showing you what it's capable of doing. So keeping the same shotgun map, just this last little bit, you can also analyze leadership and help with leadership. If you can find out which dot are the leaders and use the name map instead, you can actually see what type of leadership style they tend to use. So you can use, or you can compare that team member's expectations and requirements to that of where the manager sits as a dot in the or name in the actual map itself, and work through some potential management pitfalls. Okay, so in this shotgun map, we've actually just said that person DI is the leader. It could have come from C, it could have come from S, it could have come from anywhere. You can see that this style of person is typically a change leader. So you can see it on the map. They're sitting in that DI area. They have a change leadership. Whilst they are charismatic and persuasive, they are also competitive and can be quite demanding, want results and loves constant change. So their challenges are things like being quite direct or blunt when under pressure, lacking planning and administration at times. And that makes, they tend to make fast changes, potentially without a lot of communication, and if they're not aware of how they do that. So you can kind of see my point. This is a lot of things that are very different to the quite a few of the team that are in the S style quadrant. And they would actually expect and require quite a lot of opposite of what I just said. Not saying this is a bad mix, because actually sometimes the opposites, as you know, attract, because one group's challenge is the other person's strength. So this can work quite well. However, always being aware of each other's makeup is the secret to that one. Okay, so we could go on and on evaluating the shotgun map, and even more depth in this particular webinar. But if you, as I say, if you haven't done the second level, we go into a lot more depth like this in the teams module. The more information you know, though, about the styles and teams, the more you can link it to things like team tasking, where you actually put the required activities of the team around the diamond, see the natural fit. You can do this actually now on Open Preview with bringing in behavioural competencies, and you can see where they sit on the diamond. Open Preview is amazing. I still, funnily enough, if I do it quickly, do it quite manually, but totally up to you. So team tasking can be done in detail or just a quick overview of what is required. Of course, if there isn't a team member that's a natural fit for a particular task, don't freak out, okay? They have a flexibility zone or scope. They can probably flex into it. So all because they're not right in that wedge, have a look at flexibility scope. Otherwise, of course, there's things like recruiting more directly, or training that person, or realigning their job scope. Everything here is what we do to make things and people fit. So in this case, the activities I've put up are mainly covered by the team. Other examples you may find might not, but possibly you might have some gaps when you do yours. There's no one in those areas. Do you need to recruit for it, or can someone flex into those areas? Okay, keeping on. Because we have a lot to get through today, I'm actually just going to briefly show you the arrow map and some questions that could be pertinent to analysing the team. You can find a bit more information, of course, about these arrow maps yourself in your training or the VIP. Firstly, you should know that at the beginning of an arrow is a person's profile 2, and at the end of the arrow is profile 1. This means that this arrow map is able to capture how different members might be adjusting their style in the current environment. Usually a longer arrow, the longer the arrow is, the more they tend to be using energy to stretch their behaviours. Of course, if you do find more information like this, the longer the arrow, it's not always that they are using heaps of information, heaps of energy, because if it's landing in a person's grey area, it's actually part of their flexibility zone. So I will be honest and actually say, I do refer to someone's individual report when I'm looking at this as well, to actually see how much they're flexing. But as a team, you can start to see that there are trends in the way that the arrows go for whichever reason. And though this is not absolute finite stuff, this is stuff to consider as well. So let's have a little look. There are a few more maps that you can have a look at here, and I'll just bring them all up. But you can have a look at this first one. Does the team need to modify their behaviours to meet responsibilities? Do most arrows point in the same direction? What does the team feel it needs? Why does the team feel it needs to adjust in this manner? Is their team feeling pressure of different directions? What's happening? So much stuff you can ask yourself. But look, there's a couple here, and you can just start to see some trends. But things like full arrows, there is some sort of pressure target on them. Team feels a pressure. Now, can I just say, that is not necessarily a bad thing. This could be a fantastic culture where they've all agreed that the arrows need to be pointing to more of a, a sort of, if I've got my glasses on, a DIID sort of area, and they're all on a mission. Who knows? The mixed arrow, yep, you could be asking yourself, does the team, are they treated as a team? Do they know that they're a team, or is this actually just a group of people? The team could be experiencing challenges as challenging to work together. Maybe there's some more unity and team building that they can do. But look, there's no absolute finite, this is what it means, but it really is good to consider. I actually just had a client the other day who had every single person bar one pointing down to an eye area. And they had been working on their culture as a pharmaceutical company really hard for a long time to make it customer-facing, client-facing, uplifting, really, really trying. And over a period of a few years, we had cracked this. And the whole change to a more of an eye style is what they wanted, and they got it. So it was amazing. But not everyone wants to go there. Different reasons, different seasons is what I say. So the last map we'll look at today is what we call the team flexibility map. This combines all the members' flexibility zones, creates one map that gives an overview of their energy expenditure and comfort zones as a team. You've seen it as individuals, now it's a team. Again, this can be used for things like team tasking, putting activities around it and seeing how much scope or how much grey area you have in those particular tasks. Or you can use it to assess gaps or management expectations that might or might not align with the team makeup. So the shaded area are the low energy consumption zones, and the white is the high energy consumption zones. So activities that fall in the white areas might mean that they could be issues like avoidance or performance issues, and therefore training or support might be needed more in these areas for this team. But to see the overall comfort zone of the team means you can better understand the actual makeup of your team. Well, there's been a lot of information here today. So, looking at all these maps, and these are just the maps. This is, you can actually really have a look and analyze a team so deeply. Don't forget there are pages of competencies as well that can really help look at very specific areas of things like administration, leadership, people duties, or you name it, it's in there. I'm sure you would have had a look. So one last slide just before we start to round off this webinar today. How does this actual process work? So some of you newbies, well, the team report's pretty easy to use. Once the participating individuals have completed their 10-minute online questionnaire, which is the normal DISC questionnaire, okay? This is not a separate one for this team one. They may have already previously done a DISC report. That's fine, their information will be in there. So you simply go into your account and click the database tab, as I've shown in here in number 1. And from the drop-down box, select individuals in number 2. Then go across the page, click on behavioural analysis, labelled as 3, and we'll bring up all the individual names. You literally go through and click which people you want to be involved. Now, there are some new buttons now called teams, as you can see in there. So there is the possibility that you can actually, if this is a team that you'll be analysing a lot, you can name the team and give it a separate access code, which means anybody with that access code will be updated onto that team. Sorry, Courtney, but if anyone wants to know a bit further about that, good old Courtney or Jan or Kelly I'm sure will be thrilled to sort of take you through that. So the Teams tab can be actually very handy. So we can provide, things like your standard Finxs team analysis report off the shelf. But if you like any of the reports modified, of course, by all means do it. As I say, I've got lots of clients that have done it, and I've actually got one myself that's also modified for specific industry. Don't be scared to do it. Maybe just get your report designer and have a look. Okay, so look, thank you for being with me and looking in depth at the team analysis report. For those of you that are new and those that have been with us for a long time, I can see your names. Generating an overview of the team is really, so critical really, to reveal individual members, if they're too similar. If I say too similar, are they similar? Are they dissimilar? Or the team may be missing certain roles like developers or supporters that may be needed to complete certain requirements or tasks that you actually need. So looking at the team report can also help align team goals, management expectations versus what the actual makeup of the team is. So of course, having knowledge of DISC styles in areas like team roles, communication styles, attitude towards activities, strengths and challenges, fears, all this type of stuff will really help you have a more detailed analysis when it comes to interpreting the maps and the data. So much of this valuable information leads to helping make team or organisation decisions, and it makes it more productive, efficient and cohesive, something that everyone gains from. So again, thank you for listening, everyone. If you have any questions, feel free to email HR Profiling. If it's material you're after, just check the website pages first. It might already be there for you to download. But this webinar, of course, will be up in the next few days. For all of you that join me, thank you, and hope to see you maybe next month for another webinar, and possibly won't be as long as this, but this one happened to have such great information I couldn't help myself. Thank you all. Catch you next time. Bye.